Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan, and it is a cool and foggy morning, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. The heater came on and all of a sudden my nose went all fuzzy. So welcome to Painting in Your PJs Live. If this is your first time here, Painting in Your PJs is all about using art as a creative process and a creative practice for self-reflection and for self-discovery. I love creating intuitive art from the inside out. And all month long, we are working our ways. We, the royal we, me, I am working my way through 21 days of intuitive art using my Write, Paint, Reflect method. With this method, what I love to do is to take a prompt, and I'm selecting the prompts this month from our creative self-care bundle that's only $29 and includes 3 amazing printables and 2 of my favorite classes. And I'm pulling prompts from there to inspire my own end of year self-reflection. And we're making great progress. So this is one of the printables, one of my son Connor's gorgeous sacred circle designs. There's 36 of these designs and a class and introduction to zentangle and 3 hours of how to create gorgeous mandala designs like this one. Really love how that page came out. So I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm finding that it's taking me really deep into thinking about who I am and what do I want for next year and what does that look like and what's stopping me from maybe moving forward. And good morning, Judy. Thank you for being here live. If this is your first time here, please hit the subscribe button. Helps me a ton to grow my subscriber base. Click like if you love what I share this morning, and also click that little bell to get notified when I go live. During the month of December, I am going live most mornings at 7 a.m. except for Wednesdays when I go live at 5 p.m. And Saturday I won't be going live because I have a presentation that I'm doing in Denver, and I will be driving to Denver to give a talk on why making art matters. And I'll probably be talking through that tomorrow with all of you, because today what's on my plate is actually finishing up that talk. I have some ideas. I was playing with my circles this morning. You can see me flipping through them and noticing these aren't cut quite the same and don't quite want to fit together. But I think that's okay. I'm not going for perfection here. This one has a much longer fold along this edge, and I'm sort of looking at this wondering if maybe I should trim that up a little bit. And I'm thinking I might. So this was the page I did on last night's show where we looked at what makes life worth living. And for me, what makes life worth living is having that clear sense of purpose. And Jane Goodall is one of the people that really, for me, represents that sense of such clarity of purpose and vocation throughout her very long and fruitful career. All right, so I'm just trimming this up a little bit. I've already done some writing this morning and added a little gesso. I am working in a circle journal format inspired by the artist Tiffany Sharp, who recently released a new class on circle journals. Okay, that fits much better. This definitely is going to be fits a little better, a middle spread because it's designed to all really play together in one spread. So this will be the middle of whatever signature I am creating here. And I really was happy with how this one came out last night. And now this doesn't feel quite round, and I'm wondering where my Helix drawing tool is, and I'm just not even going to worry about it. I'm not going for perfection. Tiffany's class on how to make, she has 4 different styles of circle journal that she shares. It's really a great class, highly recommend it. It's over on Willa Wanders on Teachable, Willa Wanders on Teachable. If you're curious, and I'm not an affiliate, I just think it's a great class and she's a fabulous teacher. So our prompt for this morning is all about comfort zones. And the prompt reads, how often do you venture outside your comfort zone and how does that make you feel? How often do you venture outside your comfort zone and how does that make you feel? And I think this is such a powerful question. And when I was doing my journaling, it really got me thinking about how there's some areas of my life where I'm very comfortable going outside my comfort zone. And then there's other areas of my life where I'm not so comfortable going out of my comfort zone. And when it comes to my creative practice, one of the areas that for me continues to be the most challenging is drawing faces. So I thought it would be appropriate this morning to paint a face. And if you've been following me for a while, a couple of months ago, I did a whole month of painting faces. And I am working on an oracle deck. And I wish I'd had this awesome little stencil when I started. So this great little stencil is designed by Megan Quinlan. I just got a set of her paper doll stencils. I love making paper dolls of all kinds. And then was delighted to find that it also included this little template for drawing faces, and then I don't have to do the measurements myself. I also recognize that the more I practice, the better I get when it comes to anything in my creative practice. And I'm curious if I can paint this face using this limited palette that I chose for myself, and what might that be like? I also pulled out these fun little stencil shapes here. These little sort of wonky circle stencils. And I don't know if they're going to get included, but it felt like maybe there might be some fun to have with maybe a little flower design on her head using these little stencils. So I'm going to just trace over these as well. I really loved this wonky circles. This is a stencil somebody gave me from Joggles. And I hadn't even opened them yet. So it was fun to get them out of the package this morning. All kinds of fun, interesting, organic shapes. And I love when I have big open stencils like this that allow me to create differently. Almost looks more like a sun rays in front of her there. But we'll see. So I'm going to start painting and we'll see where we get to. The other place in my life personally where I really struggle to get out of my comfort zone is with pushing myself physically. So I keep saying I want to get stronger, I want to exercise more, and do I? And how does that, how do I make that happen? So I recently joined a local gym. I've started going to the gym, and it means I'm going to be sore. And I have to deal with that soreness. And I recognize that my reluctance to feel physically uncomfortable has stopped me at times. And I'm not adventurous physically. Like, you're not going to catch me ziplining, snow skiing down a mountain at crazy speeds, right? Like, there's just a lot of things I'm like, no, I have zero interest in that. And they feel like such a huge leap outside the comfort zone that I'm like, I don't even need to go there. And when I teach and talk in my coaching about comfort zones, the way I like to think about comfort zones is kind of like these wonky, funky circles. And we want to just stretch the boundaries of those comfort zones. It's really challenging to leap outside of our comfort zone. It's too much for most of us, and fear will stop us. And over the years, oh, maybe she's going to get these butterfly wings that we cut up yesterday too. All kinds of fun ideas, but if she, I don't know if we want butterflies, and yeah, I'm liking these colors in the background. Maybe she's going to get butterflies instead of circles. So I'm just looking at all the little bits and pieces floating around on my desk right now. And so I think about the fact that I ran 3 half marathons in the past. Well, I didn't go out one day and run 13.2 miles or 13.1 miles, it is. I trained for it and I took my time. And when I remember those successes that I've had, it makes it a little bit easier to think about going back to the gym and remembering that I've done this before. I can do this again. Now I got to decide, am I just going to have that one eye on there? So if she's going to get this butterfly, then we would see part of her eye under those butterfly wings. So if you remember your proportions for drawing faces, this first line is about halfway down this whole oval, and this is the line for our eyes. This is the line for a nose, and then this is the line for our mouth. So things on a face align vertically and they align horizontally. So usually our mouth is about as wide as our eyes are far apart. And I saw an eraser. And our eyes are equally spaced between here and here. And we want as much space from here to here as here to here. And this is what is going to give some nice symmetry to drawing our face. Again, I love that stencil by Megan Quinlan from her Etsy shop because it created those lines for me and I didn't have to think about it. I'm thinking maybe just a cute little sort of maybe round button nose today. And then our eyes kind of come down from the corners of our eyes is where the edge of our lips go to. And then our ears, if you're doing something with ears, go from that eye line to the nose line. So we're going to give our little character here some ears. And all these features may change as I start to paint it. And I can vary the features. Like maybe I want her to have a little pointier chin. Maybe I want her to have a little bit bigger eyes. But once I have those features down there, then I can start to paint that face. And then her hairline here, so we're not going to see a lot of her hair behind these butterfly wings. I'm going to put it right where I thought I was going to put that circle. And this is going to hang over the edge of the journal. I love things that hang over the edge of my journal. So let's give her some hair. And then we'll see that hair over here on this side as well. All right. So now my curiosity is, and another stretch outside of my comfort zone, is I've restricted myself to this very limited palette. And so I'm going to paint this face with this very limited palette. Looking for some small brushes here, which means either she's going to end up being funky colored, or I'm going to really practice a little bit with some color mixing. And I think that's where I want to start, is taking this Naples yellow. I'm going to add a little touch of black and a little touch of that alizarin crimson. A little more of that alizarin crimson. And that crimson and that Naples yellow are actually making a really nice, more of a skin tone. And this brush is way too big, but it's going to help me just get some color down on here quick. And I want to use the paint that's on my brush. So I'm just going to start blocking in some of that color. I want to still be able to maybe see some of those pencil lines under there so I know where I'm going. And when you have these guidelines, it makes stepping outside your comfort zone so much easier. Good morning, Kim. Better late than never is right. You are welcome anytime. So our prompt today, if you're just joining us, is how often do you venture outside your comfort zone, and how do you feel when you do that? How do you feel when you do that? All right. So for me, one of the things creatively that always feels like a stretch is painting faces. And so it felt like a good metaphor to paint a face that helps me stretch out of my comfort zone. Not only that, but I'm painting a face very publicly, right? Painting a face in front of all of you. It's not going to be perfect. Not that I need it to be perfect. And I'm definitely not an expert in painting faces. And when I think about how I used Megan Quinlan's awesome stencil that has all the lines done for me, it makes it so much easier. Good morning, Selah from Austin. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for letting me know you're here. I love those little notes in the chat. And when we get really nervous about stepping outside of our comfort zones, one of the things to remember is the benefit of having guidelines, right? Like I use the example of the first time I ran a half marathon, and I've run 3 of them, and I would love to run another one. Oh, I got some water under here. Interesting. And so some of that green is bleeding back through the gesso. That's kind of fun. I wonder if we could make that happen even a little bit on purpose, bring a little bit of that green back. And I had a training guide, right? I didn't walk out the door and run 13 miles when I hadn't been running at all. And I was really committed. Not only did I have a guide, a training guide, but I had 2 girlfriends. The first one I did with 2 other moms. We trained. We mostly did our long runs together on the weekends. And we had so much fun. The day of, all our families came and cheered us on. And boy, was I sore afterwards. But I also felt so proud and accomplished, right? I felt proud and accomplished. Okay, now I've got the basic shape down, and I just want to have some fun with some color and some texture and getting some more layers of paint on here, get her looking, I don't need her to look realistic, but maybe coming up, I want her to be cute. I'm going to need some more of our yellow here. Get some color in that eyelid. And I'm definitely going to come in with some black posca. When I paint faces, I love giving those darker outlines. A little bit of that blue and that alizarin crimson. We're getting kind of a dark purple color on there. And I get some shadows in here, just give her a little bit of dimension. We've kind of lost her ears there, so we're going to need to bring her ears back. So I'm curious how others feel about venturing outside your comfort zone. Like, what motivates you to get outside your comfort zone? What makes it hard to get outside your comfort zone? So I've been working on getting stronger. I've started going to the gym again, and I had so much resistance to going because I knew it was going to hurt because I hadn't been in a long time. And so that sense of starting over and not wanting to be sore and uncomfortable kind of kept me stuck in my comfort zone for a while. And I had to, for me personally, look at the benefits of working out and getting stronger and weigh those benefits against the short-term discomfort that I would feel. And as I was journaling this morning and thinking about the question, I identify with being, I think we'll put a little bit of that color here, even though that's mostly going to get covered up by the butterfly. We'll get some color down there as well. I identify with being a risk taker, right? I identify with being a risk taker. And yet, have I been taking any risks lately? Have I been taking risks in my business, in my personal life? My husband and I used to hike a lot, and we've kind of, fallen out. I need yellow, kind of fallen out of that habit. And so building up to that, right, would be something else to focus on. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do in the background here. I might just leave it as it is right now. I love, Judy, encouragement from friends, for sure. Encouragement from friends. Working with a coach or a therapist to support you in doing hard things, right? I needed to find a new chiropractor since I moved here, a new dentist, a new hairdresser, and it all felt hard, right? It's all starting over, building new relationships. I don't think she needs, I'm not loving the ears. We're just going to paint the hair over the ears. And yesterday, my daughter and I went and tried a new chiropractor, and he was wonderful, and I'm so grateful to have found him. And my back feels so much better today. All right, she's looking a little soulful. I kind of love the way that she's going. 100%, Kim. So Kim in the chat said that she should venture out of her comfort zone more. It's easy to become complacent. We lived in Plano, Texas for 13 years. We thought we were going to maybe be there for 5 years. And that's what happened, is that we got really complacent. Our kids were in great schools, Brad had a great job. I had a business, but we didn't love living there. It didn't give us the access to nature and outdoors that we wanted. And complacency was exactly the word that we used. And a lot of times a deadline can be, it's like with health issues, a lot of people don't take action on improving their health until something's really, really wrong, and you have to. And that creates that urgency to switch up your lifestyle and do something different. In our case, our kids were getting older and getting closer to high school, and we didn't want to move them in high school. So it created some urgency to get us going. When I was running the half marathons, there was a deadline. There was a training guide. There was a step-by-step process. So I wasn't leaping 100% out of my comfort zone. I was taking my time, right? And then I start to think about where else in my creative practice on a daily basis am I not stretching? And the area for me that I am not stretching, that I say I want to get better at, and I haven't been making time to practice lately, is drawing. I love to paint. I love using guides and tools like Megan's stencil make a big difference. But I could just practice drawing faces and animals because I love to paint animals. And maybe I would like them to be a little more lifelike. And it's easy to say, oh, I can't draw or it's too hard. But what I know after 10 years of a really consistent creative practice is that creative practice, right? Just painting, drawing every single day, that if I just keep working on it, I get better at it. And I have to be willing to, I'm looking for a pen. Actually, maybe I'm going to use the Stabilo. That might be fun. I have to really be in a space of beginner's mind, be in that childlike place of I'm learning to draw, and not expect myself to draw a masterpiece, not expect myself to run a half marathon or lift a whole ton of weight right out the gate. And I think sometimes we think of our comfort zone like jumping off a cliff, right? Like we're going to just, it's like a free fall, like jumping out of an airplane. But even jumping out of an airplane, you do your training on the ground first. All right, I need a tiny brush. Here's a tiny brush. Let's do a little bit of work on these lips, brighten those up a little bit. And I think as human beings, like we cherish routines, we get stuck in ruts and habits. And once we're stuck in a rut or habit, like for us sitting on the sofa watching TV in the evening instead of maybe going for a walk first, it's just habit at this point, and it's not necessarily a habit that supports us, but because we're in that complacent rut and it's enjoyable, we don't always make the energy to change that up. So I think about all these things about comfort zones, and my husband and I often talk about this, that nothing happens in your comfort zone. Nothing new happens. It is not the land of growth and possibility. Okay, struggling with the nose a little bit, and I think I'm trying to give it too much color. getting a baby wipe out here. So I think it's such a great question to ask ourselves, especially right now at the end of the year, and really reflecting backwards and thinking about where have I, to use Kim's word, been complacent this year? Where would I benefit from venturing outside my comfort zone more in the coming year? So when we think about setting goals or intentions or resolutions, or maybe you avoid setting those things, it's often because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure, right? And yet, if I know that growth is really important to me, that I can set some intentions and come up with some guidelines for myself so that I can slowly start to move in the direction of what it is that I say that I want. Because it's easy to talk about what we want. It's a lot harder to take action and move in that direction. So I'm going to hit this with the dryer. All right, let's give her some eyes here. I also think it's really important to reflect back over this year past and acknowledge and celebrate examples of where you did venture out of your comfort zone to try something new. Whether that's in your creative practice, your life practice, where have you stepped out of your comfort zone lately? And how can you celebrate that? And how can you do more of that? So sometimes when we get scared, one of the simplest ways to give ourselves the courage to move forward is look for evidence of where we've done it before. Look for evidence of where you've done it before. So this one's ending up a little bit bigger than that one. So we're just going to play with them a little bit here. And I'm going to have to let this, I love this Uniball Air Micro Pen, but it has to be completely dry before I can add any paint or anything to it because it's slightly water soluble until it gets dry. All right, we don't need an eyebrow over there under that hair. And I'm getting really attached to this right now and wanting it to be perfect, wanting her to be really cute. And that's kind of the antithesis of, what it is that I want to be going to. I want to just stay in that intuitive process. She's here simply to remind me to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. And I think it feels harder and my inner critic gets louder because drawing faces is outside my current comfort zone. I don't feel the need to have her be realistic, but that doesn't mean I don't want her to look good. So I can feel that inner chatter in my head, right, going on right now. And what happens is so often we let that inner chatter in our heads take over. and drive the bus. And if my inner critic is driving the bus, then I'm not going to try new things. I'm not going to get outside of my comfort zone, and I'm not going to make progress on the things that I'm saying are important to me. All right. She's coming along. She's pretty cute. I'm going to hit this ink with a dryer, see if I can dry it up. And we need some white highlights on here, and we'll get that butterfly on here. And what I find is when it starts to feel hard, when the art starts to feel hard, then I overwork it. I take too long. I spend too much time, right? Lingering, and I don't make as much progress. So I had cut this butterfly apart for last night's class, testing it out. Thank you. I'm liking her now, but it took a minute, right? You know, in typical Minette fashion, I just keep painting those layers. And the butterfly has to have a lot of courage to come out of the cocoon, to push through the icky, messy stage of metamorphosis to become the butterfly. All right, it's lost one antenna, so we'll just go ahead and cut that other antenna off because it'll probably fall off eventually anyway. Just soften that a little bit. So when you're working with acrylics, if you're new to mixed media painting and working with acrylics, having a really dry paintbrush makes a big difference. So the butterfly placement is really interesting. It's almost, where it fell, I might have moved it up just a little bit and it's already stuck, so I'm going to leave it. But I'm noticing how it's almost sort of exploding out of her head. It's kind of interesting. All right, she needs some highlights in her eyes to give her eyes a little bit of life. And she just needs a few little highlights in here. Nothing like just some simple little pops of white to bring a character to life. It's funny, her mouth shape got kind of funky. And make sure your acrylics are nice and dry before you use your pens on them. It will ruin the tips of your pens. Definitely am wanting something else in the background, some shape or texture in the background. And I think I probably want to add just some scribbly texture to her hair here. And what I love about starting with the proportions of a face is I could use these stencils over and over again, and they're never going to come out the same twice, right? So this is great for just showing you the way the proportions of a face and where eyes, nose, mouth, and ears are supposed to fall. but it's not ever gonna, no two faces will look the same. So sometimes you might think that always starting with that same shape would be a limiter. It's not. It's actually just a guide that helps me not leap out of my comfort zone and draw a face from scratch, but to have some of those marks ready to go. And I'm thinking we're gonna get some of that bright blue down in the background here. Get my brush nice and dry. But I'm thinking I'm going to add maybe a little white to that blue. And if you're new to my channel all month long, I've been sharing what I call my paint reflect method, where I start with a prompt, I do some journaling. Most of the time I paint over that journaling, so my journaling is underneath this face this morning. Ah, that's better. Woo, brightened up the whole thing. Happy, happy, happy. And then as I paint and after I paint, I reflect. There probably needs to be a few words around the edges here that remind me what the prompt is about, or I'm almost feeling like maybe a little tag or something because I like this. I don't feel like she needs any words. That blue for me just made it. And so I want to think about what could I attach here. Something fun that would tip out, but that I could do a little journaling to remind me to go outside of my comfort zone. I've got all kinds of little bits of scrappy paper. I had a lot of fun with my new Sizzix die cutting machine, cutting out a bunch of circles. I haven't gotten a lot of die cuts yet. I have circles and tag shapes. And so I cut a bunch of different sizes. So this is the spine over here where it's going to get bound. So I could do something that flipped down, that flipped out. I'm kind of digging the circle here. I know I can use a brad to attach a circle that would kind of roll in and out. Because she feels good the way she is, and I don't want to mess with her too much, and yet it feels like there's still a little something something that needs to happen to tell the rest of the story. Okay, so let's set her over here for a second. And I also have a bunch of paint still on my palette, and I want to use up this paint. This looks like maybe it had a little stenciling or gel printing on it. And let's come in here, maybe get a little... So you guys know the trick, right, of your save your makeup sponges. You can use them over and over again by just cutting off the hard dried end. And I love this leafy pattern, much like the butterfly, reminds me that growth happens outside the comfort zone. And maybe that's what needs to get written on here, is that growth happens outside the comfort zone. Get a little more of this white here. And I always use up all the paint left on my palette and add it to other scrappy bits of paper, right? Like it's what I love about painting with acrylics, is that I always have a use. I might have a canvas or a journal, like I have all kinds of things around that where I can use up that paint. But it's also what I love about watercolors, that you don't have to use it all up because it will dry. Okay, and then I'm thinking this is going to get some, it is absolutely a nod to my love of nature, Kim. Great point. And I'm wondering if I want to echo that over here a little bit. If I don't like it, I can paint over it. My mantra when I'm painting is everything is paint overable. And you guys have seen me, time after time, let go of a page, right, and completely paint over a page. And I do kind of want these to match. I love it because now it looks like she's part of nature, right? Maybe she's in a garden somewhere. We've got the butterfly and the leafy bits in the foreground, and it pushes her even a little more back to the background. Sneeze. So now when that sits on there, we have a different story that emerges, and we get to tell a couple of different stories on the process as part of our practice here. And definitely going to do some hand drawing with some black on here. And I want to just get some paint. So I'm going to do the writing on the back. So I want to just get a nice solid surface down on here, continue to use up some of the paint on my palette. And I think I'm liking the idea of having a little brad on here that will, sort of flip this in and out, kind of turn it in and out. And the writing on the back will be a little bit secret. I'm almost looking at this going, I want maybe a little pop of green, like that yellow is the same yellow as my background. We've got the little pop of red, but there's no other green on the palette, so my eye is kind of obsessively drawn up here to the butterfly. And I'm wondering if I added just a little bit of green here to my leaves, that we could change that up a little bit. And I'm wondering what kind of a green can we create with our palette. And still too blue. And when I'm working intuitively, sometimes it just requires patience. And I know not everyone, oh, that feels really good, close, has an hour every day to spend creating. And when I don't have an hour, I might start with just that first layer, just putting some paint down. Notice I'm not painting the whole leaf, I'm just getting a little bit of green in there. I don't have to do this whole process in one sitting. One sitting might simply be the writing. One process might be getting a couple of layers of color down. And give yourself permission to just take a few minutes a day. Maybe it's one prompt a week, and you work on that all week long. And sometimes you think you're done with a piece, and then that piece will tell you, nope, not quite. There's still more to do here. There's still more to do here. I love it a little more subtle. Bring some of that green over here as well. Again, I'm not trying to cover up all the white. I like the little white edges, gives it a little bit of a glow. Still going to come in with some black lines over the top. All right, so that's going to end up sitting right there, flipping in and out. I'm thinking I want to still brighten up her eyes a little bit. Might need a little gel pen or posca marker or something in there. I almost stuck my paintbrush in my coffee cup. I went to lean that way and I have like one sip of coffee. My water container is the other way, so I'm going to drink my coffee. That's kind of fun. All right, loving the layered look that has emerged here. Again, I had no idea where I was going when I started this process. I'm literally using little bits and pieces of things that were just floating around on my desk. What I don't have over here on my desk is a brad, so I will do that later. And I giggle to myself every time I say that because my husband's name is Brad. All right. Yeah. Okay. And then on the back of this, I think it's going to say growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone to remind me. That if I say I want to grow, I got to be willing to stretch my comfort zone. And that I have different levels of comfort in different zones of my life, right? Some areas of life I'm much more comfortable being a risk taker, and in others not so much. I think like I did last night with the Jane Goodall, that we're going to grunge this edge up just a little bit. And when I think about leaping outside of my comfort zone, holy wow, is she like a role model for that also, right? Like she and her mom packed up, went to Africa when she was a very young woman, and her mom supported her in her adventures and journeys. So this lady, she does. She looks a little. Hi, Mariette. Welcome, welcome, my friend. How are things all the way on your side of the world? Lovely to see you here. So she definitely looks a little tentative, and she can definitely take some strength from Jane's conviction of purpose and commitment to her vocation, right? So growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone is kind of what my response to our prompt for today. How often do you venture out of your comfort zone, and how do you feel when that happens, right? When you do that, how do you feel? All right. One of the things I love about this Uniball Air micro pen is how lovely it goes over the top of acrylics. I love my microns for my zentangle practice, but the microns do not love. It's a great way to destroy the nibs on your expensive pens is to draw over the top of acrylic. So a good gel pen or a roller ball like this one is a better tool for drawing over the top of acrylic paint. All right, and this is going to be the last touch for this for now. And then, as is my way, I will let it sit here on my table until I'm back tomorrow morning. And I'll look at it with fresh eyes. And it might change, it might grow. Okay, super happy with the end result. Again, I just need to find the little brad to attach it over here. And this one felt like a stretch, right? Drawing faces for me always feels like that little bit of a stretch. And I'm pretty happy with the result, no complaints. And yet I get nervous about it, right? I get fiddly and fussy with it, like I'm doing right now. I'm like, oh, the eyes aren't quite even. Oh, it's not quite right. And yet she has great personality. She's quirky. If I look at my own face in the mirror, it's not perfect. It's not even. So we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, Mariette. Thank you. So happy to see you, my friend. Thank you, everyone who joined me live. Thank you for catching the replay. Type replay in the comments. Let me know you stopped by. And have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for another episode of Painting in Your PJs Live with Minette. Bye-bye, everybody.